Hey guys, I'm here with my friend Dana, and she has a property management company. And we've been talking, and we were fellow speakers at RubeCon not long ago. And I thought it'd be kind of cool to kind of ask her some questions and have her just kind of tell us a little bit about what her company does, because there's so many people that are in our groups that have rental properties, and they're always asking me, hey, who's a good property management company, or how can we do this? So I figure Dana, she's perfect for this. So I think she has maybe close to 30,000 properties under management or something like that. So Dana, you're up. Kind of give me an idea of what all you guys
Great.
do.
Thanks so much, Kris. And yes, so we have just over 30,000 rental properties. But really the concept about around Hemlane was not to just redo property management and stick technology onto the existing systems. If you look at property management today, I think a lot of you guys have been asking for property management because you might be dissatisfied with your property manager. Your property manager has too much work, not enough pay, and they get burnt out. There could be various reasons for it. And I think that all comes down to systems and processes. Property management is the second lowest rated industry on Angie's, second to home warranty. So there's just not a lot of trust in the entire system. And so what we did with Hemlane on the property management side is try to create something totally different and reinvent it. So it first starts with technology. Anything that technology can do better than humans, and by technology, I mean software, but also best in class workflows to make sure every question is answered, all the way to AI. And what can AI do better than humans? We've basically built into our process, doing everything from helping advertise your property and find and place a tenant to renewals to turnovers. So do everything end to end. And then where I think a lot of technology companies go wrong with property management is that they forget about humans and that you need humans involved. So the local boots on the ground, we have brokerage partners. We also have a network of service professionals. And that coupled with our 24/7 repair coordination team, our 7 day a week showings and leasing team, all of that will help you succeed with your properties and your property management. And then just most importantly, what I'd say about it is the only way to make property management 5-star is to keep the owner in the driver's seat. So we have you make all the decisions, you go through and set everything up exactly how you want. It's pretty easy to do. If you can use Facebook, you can use Hemlane. But once you go ahead and get everything set up, then we are basically, think of us as your assistants, your dispatchers, the folks who are responding to inquiries, but we keep you in the decision-making seat. So anything that requires a decision or any money that's held, all of that goes directly to you.
Question. There's different types of, even with like single family properties, there's different types of investors. For example, one guy might be really seasoned, or a girl, and man, she's got it down and she'll don't have to worry about anything. She can handle a lot of different things. Whereas some people might be newer investors and they need somebody to kind of handle more. Can you tailor what you guys do depending on the type of investor?
Yeah, so it's very much of a plug and play. When we started Hemlane, we called it unbundled property management initially, whereas like we can unbundle it. Someone might need a mediator to help because their tenants are always late on rent. You can
Mm-hmm.
just go ahead and add that on. Someone else may say, hey, I don't need anything except some software and a little bit of AI, and then they can just choose that package. So it's really designed and built for who you are, who your properties are. And then we'll also tell you what services we have in certain areas. So for example, if you're in a town with population of 5,000, we probably don't have a handyman and an electrician there. We can call dispatch and do all the payments and authorizations for your own handyman and your own electrician, but we most likely won't have our own. And so a lot of it has to do with your property, your property's location, your preferences of what you need. And so that's why I always say, real estate is very personalized. There's no one size fits all with it.
Okay. How would it work? So say I bought a rental property. I'm like, great, I got the property, it's ready, I need a tenant, and I reached out to you guys. Can you walk me through kind of how that process would work?
Yeah, so if you're looking for a tenant, if you reach out for our tenants placement services, there's three different ones. There's one where we say, Kris, do you want to do the showings yourself? If you want to go and show the property yourself, we'll advertise it over 15 listing websites, all the top ones. There's automatic responses to the inquiries. We'll go ahead and you can put your showing calendar in there. We'll pre-qualify the tenants. We have the applications, the background, credit check, eviction search, and income verification. And then we have the leases, we'll prorate rent, all of that in app. So everything's streamlined through there. Kris, if you say, I don't want to be hands-on, I don't want to talk to the tenants or do anything, then we can connect you with a local agent, or our fastest growing service is called tenant placement, where it's self-guided tours. And that's where we actually have their ID on file. While the tenant is at the property, touring the property, we're on the call with them. So we're texting them, we're calling them, we're making sure they got in, we're making sure they locked up, we're making sure they report anything that seems odd at the property or may not be rent ready. And so that's the other package. And so all of those go through with the same with the advertising and the applications and the background and credit checks. Just depends on what level of service that you want.
Do you ever find yourselves or your company actually kind of training investors, like guiding them in the process?
Yes.
Okay, because
Yeah.
you have so many different people, and a lot of them they have no idea what they're doing. So I could see how you could actually be holding somebody's hand that if they were nervous about doing this, how you could kind of like guide them. Like this is
Yeah.
the first step, this is the second step.
We find ourselves consulting and advising a lot. Now, we're not lawyers, so we can't
Sure.
provide legal advice, but there's a lot of things that we will go through and talk to owners about. One example, Kris, I have is like recently an owner called our sales line and they had said, hey, I really want to reduce turnover costs. I have a tenant in there. They're going to leave it in perfect condition. They're moving out because they can't afford the place, but they've paid their rent on time every time. And I said, if you really want to reduce your vacancy costs, go ahead and give those tenants, $300 if they're able to show the property and they sign a lease with one of the tenants. In other words, they sell the tenants, this was a great place to
Oh,
live. You should live
nice.
here.
Hmm.
And then what happens is once they move out, they've met who's moving in. So they're going to want to leave it in really good condition. You
Sure.
do a 2-day turnover, just really quickly, cleaning. If you need to paint, you can paint the walls pretty quickly. You do a 2-day turnover and you really have reduced your vacancy. So certain things like that of like the consulting and advising is definitely something that we promote and that we do. And it's something that others don't do. But we found it's just the best way to make sure that investors feel well taken care of, that they're able to get the cash flow that they deserve. And on top of that, they trust us, right? Because right off the beginning, there's not a lot of trust in the industry. And so you need to rebuild that over time. And we want them to know, hey, we're actually a team who knows our stuff. We're not sitting here like rookies saying, hey, we had a startup idea and we know nothing about real estate. Please come and
Sure.
use us.
Oh, that's great. Now, as far as like rent collection, you know, if I had a rental property I wanted you guys to manage, how would that work as far as like me getting paid or you getting paid?
Yeah, so the rent goes 100% to you, including any of the late fees. So we don't take any portion of that, Kris. And how that basically works is you'll request the payments online. You set them up recurring. It includes the late fees in them. The tenant has to pay the late fee before they can pay the rent. So they very
Ah,
quickly learn, let me make sure I pay my rent on time.
sure.
And then if your tenants are bankless, in other words, they are usually pay via cash, they can go ahead and get the Chime or Green Dot Bank or any of those cards from Walmart or 7-Eleven. They go to multiple different places. They get that and then they can pay that way. So we have multiple different payment methods for them, but it's all logged and tracked online. And then when your renewal comes up, we'll remind you about it. We'll redo the prorated rent and all of that stuff, and you're on your way.
Perfect. Can you tell me, or sorry, Fido started barking. Your average tenant or person who hires you guys, what would their property be? I mean, would it be like a single, like just a one person with a single house, or would it be more of like somebody has like a duplex or? um,
Yeah. Good question. We take a ton of people with single family homes. Honestly, I think one rental property is probably our biggest subset of customers by number. However, what you'll see is people with 8 to 50 rentals to 100 rentals also come on the platform. The reason I say probably like 1 to 4 is the most popular is an owner owns an average of 2 to 3 rental properties. So that's kind of mass market. And so we built it where, hey, you could start with one, but you can also grow and scale with us. Or we just have a lot of people moving over to us. Like our largest growing segment is multifamily.
Oh.
And a lot of the multifamily are just moving over to us because they say, you know what, I've got an on-site manager. I just need the repair coordination, the tracking, the documentation, the repair billing, all of that done. And that's really where we step in and we can help them out.
Um, how did all this come about? I mean, where did you come up with the idea, or how did you guys come into existence?
Yeah, it's actually really funny because I used to think back in 2015 when we were first starting Hemlane, I used to think that every startup idea was a great idea. And then after kind of jumping into the deep end, I'm so much more skeptical of like, oh, that idea is not going to work. That one's going to take a long time. And in part because you don't know what you don't know. I worked for the largest startup right before that. So I'd worked at Apple,
Hmm.
started back in 2010 at Apple. And I really loved that everyone was always asking why and how do you launch something that is truly innovative, that truly changes the market. And so that was what I was doing at the time. On the side, my older sister and her husband were investing in real estate. They said, Dana, all you do is work. So why don't you get involved as well? You don't spend money, which means you save money. So why
Yeah.
don't you get involved in real estate investing? It's a good time. But the biggest thing for me was like, great, now I purchased a property and now I have to manage it or I have to manage the manager. I want something real time. Like all the property management softwares out there for a traditional property manager hide everything from the owner. The owner doesn't have anything in real time. They just get a monthly statement. And for me with technology, that just didn't make sense. It would be like your stocks that you couldn't go online and check how your stocks are performing. Like it just was a really weird concept. And then I was working at a home technology company, Nest. So a lot of people from Apple moved over to Nest because Nest was started by two Apple guys,
Oh, I didn't know that.
Matt and Tony. Yeah, the guy who invented the iPod
Hmm.
invented the Nest thermostat and the
Didn't know
company.
that. Okay.
Yes. So it was a bunch of Apple people who were moving over and they were poaching a lot more people from Apple. And so at that time, I went over to Nest. And it was interesting because I was like, great, from my phone, I can see my primary residence. I can see with cameras all around. If I'm out, I can automatically turn down the thermostat. If I'm, in the office and I need to unlock the door to let someone in, I can do it from my phone. But I felt like with my rentals that I couldn't do anything. Like I literally had no transparency into what was happening. And now tenants don't want cameras. They don't want you to be letting anyone in. So it's a little bit different, but at the same time, the concept is still there. If I need someone to drive by my property to see what's going on, how do we make that physically possible?
That's interesting. Another question. Between, say, your company and like say the traditional, property management companies, how can you kind of tell some of the differences on what it'd be like, say, using you guys compared to, say, the guy up the street that says he's a property manager?
Yeah, yeah, and it's heavily dependent on who that person is. I feel like every property manager is different. What you will get from us is a lot of transparency, a lot of trust because you know everything going on. There's no conversation you can't see that, we've sent to tenants or anything like that. So all of that will be 100% transparent to you. The one thing I would say with it is that you have to be in the driver's seat, the decision-making seat. So you yourself are just going to have to learn to use the platform. It's pretty easy. You have tasks, you go through them. You could go through the tasks, review the lease, populate it, send it out. So there's still a little bit of work that you have to do, but you're definitely not in the day to day. You're only in when you have to make some decision that matters, and we'll guide you through it. But what we really want to do is make sure it's how you want things taken care of, because that's the only way we've realized that owners are satisfied saying, hey, this is really great property management. I feel very much in control.
Cool. Now, is there certain types of, say, landlords that aren't a good fit, or are there better or are there better fits than others for you guys?
Yeah, there's two types of landlord Hemlane is not good for. If you want to be 1,000% passive and you just say, here are the keys, I never want to hear about the place. I don't even care if the repairs are $3,000 for something that should be $2,000. Just charge me. I don't really care. I just don't want to deal with it. Hemlane is terrible. Now,
Okay.
we have specific brokerage partners, only one in every region, and it's not in every region, but we have specific brokerage partners who are Hemlane qualified. We would refer you to them. They do things the Hemlane way. They believe in transparency. They believe in trust. They believe in all the things that we do, and we vetted them for that. We would refer you to them and they could help you out. But typically, if you want to be totally passive in most regions, Hemlane won't work for you. Then the other one is, so that's on the one side of spectrum. The other one I find is slumlords.
Oh,
So if you don't want to do any repairs, if you don't want documentation on anything, where it's like, oh, we haven't gotten that repair fixed in 35 days and the tenant hasn't had heat, and let's just cover up that mold or whatever it is. That doesn't sit well with us, because we've always found that just ends you in a lawsuit. And you really just don't want that. And so you should be on top of things. Now, keep in mind, we troubleshoot everything. We try to get the tenants to fix things themselves if there's no liability. Like, we're not just tossing in repair requests and throwing, charges at you, but we do want to make sure that you are following your end of the lease. And unfortunately, real estate, I think, sometimes attracts people who don't want to do that. And so we definitely want to make sure we're on that end of trust, transparency, and also just following the law and what is put into place.
all right. And then say somebody wants to talk to you guys and learn how it works, or,
Yeah.
just have a conversation kind of like this, but ask their own questions. What's the best way for somebody to just get in touch with you guys?
Yeah, they can go on our website. At the bottom, there's a contact us. You can go ahead and give us a call. The other thing you can do is just book a demo if you actually want to see it in action, see how it works. I know we haven't gone through one now. So if you want to see how it works, you can just go ahead and click book a demo.
Cool. Sounds good. So we'll put a link, whenever you see this video, they'll have some links down there. So hopefully you get lucky and you can talk to Dana, not promising, but I don't think I have any other questions, unless there's something that you can think of that we didn't talk about that you think we should.
Yeah, no, I think if anyone can just comment on this post of what you think, what questions you have, would love to hear from you.
Awesome. Thanks, Dana.
Thanks so much, Kris.